Hi, this is America. This is Donald Trump's America. Imagine being in a nation where farmers are taking themselves out because of having to face financial ruin, and at the same time, people in that nation don't have access to fresh, affordable food. Comment was left on a video where I was talking about grocery prices. A lot of my work in the before times was talking about sustainable food chains, making sure that we have sustainable food distribution systems that connect local farmers with local eaters, and how important that is for our nation in terms of resilience, how good and important that is for our quality of life. Yeah, in Donald Trump's America, we have farmers going out of business left and right. JD Vance is an investor in a company known as AgriTrader. Those are foreign hedge funds and foreign investors that come in and buy up farmers' land for pennies on the dollar. This is all about mega corporations owning more and more of our land, family farms becoming something completely obsolete. This is why I don't ascribe to FAFO when it comes to America's farmers. And people give me a really hard time for that. But if you don't understand how we are all connected to our farmers, how important it is for us to have food systems, access to food, understanding food is a basic human right, not something that should be completely controlled by corporations. If you don't understand how the loss of our farmland being bought up by mega corporations, foreign investors, is a problem. If you think that family farms struggling and going out of business is a good thing, you don't understand how we're all connected, unfortunately. Donald Trump promised to make America great again, but this is a country where farmers are going out of business. We have to have regular bailouts. I actually might talk about this in the next video. Those bailouts don't benefit the farmer at all. That money goes straight through the farmer and into the pockets of these mega corporations that all donate to Donald Trump. This is all about taking billions of our taxpayer money and not saving family farmers, but enriching mega corporations, while farming becomes increasingly impossible for America's family farms. Our land, the land of this nation, is sold off to big hedge funds, big corporations, foreign investors. That makes us all a lot less stable. It makes our food system much more precarious. It drives the cost of food way, way, way up. When you have a nation's food system that is built on corporate profit, that is built on making sure that they squeeze every dime out of us, you end up with a food system that doesn't care about pollution, it doesn't care about your health, it doesn't care about the nutritional quality of your food, it doesn't care about food safety. After all, the Trump regime has rolled back, the USDA has rolled back all kinds of food inspections, safety protocols. Our food is less safe than it was a year ago. And that's all because it's cheaper. It's cheaper for these big corporations to have contaminated food with bits of metal or pus and, pathogens of various kinds. They've pulled back all kinds of worker safety protocols. They don't want to have to pay out if they injure you on the job. They also don't want to give you health insurance in the first place. When you have mega corporations whose entire goal is to maximize their profit for the CEOs and their mega shareholders, what you get is a food system that harms us and harms the planet. Food becomes increasingly unaffordable as the environmental toll of food produced in an unsustainable way, as the workers' rights, workers' health, workers' safety toll is increased in a system where the safety of the people who grow and process our food is not considered because that's too expensive. It cuts into the profit margin. You end up with an America like the one that we're living in 2025. Where we are weaker, sicker, less financially secure. Food is more expensive. The land is more depleted. Small farmers are being run out of business. The super rich are getting far, far richer. They're getting more of our tax dollars, more of our land. They are increasing their profits, consolidating their power, and everything gets worse for us. That is the vision that Donald Trump wanted for this country, and he's getting it. Unfortunately, the farmers who all voted for him, because most of America's farmers did vote for Donald Trump, they didn't realize that that's what they were getting. And we'll see with this current bailout that's happening now, whether or not they're still going to be loyal to him. It's terrible. It really, really sucks to see people vote for their own oppression, to see people vote in a way that harms all of us. It's really hard to not have FAFO and not be like, oh, I'm going to enjoy that schadenfreude. I'm going to just totally revel in the fact that they're struggling. But doing that is very short-sighted because you don't see the ways that they are connected to us. And when, unfortunately, people that you might not like very much, people whose politics you may find reprehensible, people who have done harm to you, are still connected to you and that their fate is still tied to yours. That doesn't feel super great to acknowledge that. And I'm not necessarily asking people to have sympathy for MAGA farmers. I'm just asking you to be pragmatic and to understand that when the regime hurts America's farmers, when our family farms go out of business and mega corporations buy up the land, and when more and more of our food production, our food processing, our food supply is controlled by giant corporations. For example, the meat packing industry in this country is controlled by 4 companies. When they have that tremendous amount of power, they get all the money from bailouts, they get all of our income, they get all of the power so that they can shift and tweak policy, they can influence politicians to make sure that their profit margin grows and grows and grows. Do you see what a terrible position this puts us, the American people, this puts us as eaters in? Our food is less safe, our food is more expensive, their profit margin goes up, we suffer more. That is Donald Trump's America. That is the reality that we're living now. We are all connected. Yep, it sucks that people we are connected to voted for MAGA. It sucks that their fate is tied to ours. It sucks, but that's the reality of understanding that there is no war but the class war. That's what it means when you understand that we are connected because we have a shared oppressor. Yeah, don't come at me with a lot of farmers are very wealthy. That's true. That's true. There's a lot of farmers who are wealthy, but their wealth is in their land and in their equipment. They are usually leveraged up to their eyeballs. They're up to their eyeballs in debt. But their fate is tied to ours. They are being oppressed by the oligarchy, just like we are. They are suffering under a kleptocracy, just like we are. We have a shared oppressor. It doesn't feel great to know that these folks betrayed us to empower and enrich the same entities, the same corporations, the same billionaires that are fucking us all over and making things actively worse for all of us. But that's the reality of the situation. That's the truth of what's happening. And yeah, again, I'm not requiring you, I'm not asking, I'm not demanding in any way, shape, or form that you summon up empathy and definitely not sympathy for America's farmers. I'm just asking you to consider the ways that FAFO is short-sighted, the ways that their fate is connected to our fate, the ways that we have a shared oppressor, and that what we need is to consolidate and come together. We need to aggregate our power. That's a better word than consolidate. Aggregate our power. Yeah, these guys need to figure out that they're being fucked over by Trump. They need to turn against the regime that they have supported, and they need to stand up for democracy. Will they realistically do that? I don't know, but wishing for their downfall actually makes all of us weaker, because handing any power over to the regime, handing any power over to the billionaires, that weakens us. That's entirely the point that I'm trying to make every time I talk about this subject. We're all connected. We're all suffering in this system. We're all being exploited in this system. Not just those of us who are virtuous, not just those of us who voted the right way, all of us. We're all being screwed by the fascist Republicans and the oligarchy. And the sooner we realize that, the sooner we can start strategizing more effectively. Wishing for the downfall of farmers, that's not going to help us dig out of this. You're looking at the folks down here and not at the folks who implemented the structural elements, the systems of oppression. We have to dismantle those systems. We have to cut off the head, right? Maybe that's a poor analogy, but you can't spend your energy and your delight and get distracted by people who are losing out, who are suffering, when their suffering doesn't actually help you in any way, shape. Not that we should look at anybody's suffering as being helpful for us. Maybe the billionaires can suffer the loss of their tremendous wealth and their cruelty and their power over us. But do you understand what I'm saying in this very clumsy way? Because I got to go to a meeting. I'm really late and I'm just scrambling to get my thoughts out and they're not super gelled yet. You're focusing on the wrong things. You're focusing on folks who are voting for their own oppression rather than focusing on how we dismantle the systems that are oppressing all of us. We've got to put our energy somewhere useful, somewhere efficacious, and enjoying or hoping for the destruction, the loss of whatever, for people whose fate is connected to ours, for people whose security is connected to ours, for people whose rights are connected to ours. That's failing to address the greater issue that's distracting us from the work that we need to be doing. That's the point I keep trying to make, however clumsily.